Hello, my name is Emily Detwiler. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for the Kansas City Barbecue Society. And with me today is none other than the Professor, Tuffy Stone. Tuffy, how are you today?
Emily, I'm doing much better now because I'm looking at you and I miss you so much. So just hearing your voice and even if it's virtual, seeing your face, it's I'm having a great day.
Well, that is so sweet, so sweet. Tuffy, you have been a KCBS lifetime member for quite some time, and you've had great experiences and a lot of success and hardware on the competition barbecue circuit. I'd love for you to just tell us a few things about what that has meant to you over the years and how has that set you up for your barbecue success?
Wow, it's so amazing to me. I found out about the Kansas City Barbecue Society back in 2004, and at that time in my life, as a chef, had I'd come to this point in my career where I wasn't cooking anymore. I was just managing my company with my wife Leslie, and I really felt as a chef I needed to reconnect with cooking, and I wanted to come up with a new culinary activity. And for whatever reason in my mind, it was like, man, I need to learn how to make barbecue. I need to learn how to take a tough cut of meat and build a fire and try and cook something great out of it. And it's my personality to, when I get interested in an idea, to just really, dig into it and learn everything that I can. And during this learning process, I found out about the Kansas City Barbecue Society. And back in this day, there wasn't a lot of places to learn. I mean, there was books, of course, but we didn't have Facebook, and we didn't have a lot of the things that we can go to and learn about barbecue today back then. And one of the platforms that a lot of people interested in barbecue would go to talk and ask questions was a forum called the Barbecue Forum. And I found out about the KCBS through that. And it was like, so for me, getting into KCBS was just a place to go and learn about barbecue initially. And so I signed up for my first contest in September of 2004. I got lots of humorous stories from that experience, but, one of which was meeting Johnny Trigg for the very first time. And I had no idea who he was. But I found out that night when I was, running my fire with all the fellow stick burners. And they kept saying, Johnny hadn't even lit his fire yet. And I go, who's Johnny? They go, Johnny Trigg. I go, who's Johnny Trigg? And so when his light to his RV came on, I, being the curious person that I am, I went over and I introduced myself to him. It was then I saw my first Jambo. Johnny Trigg came to Virginia from Texas, took all the money home with him because he was grand champion that day. But I got 2 calls, and I think I got a 2nd place in pork and a 7th place in brisket or something like that. And I met all these amazing people through the KCBS, and so I call it going off the barbecue deep end for me. But one year I changed my cell plan 3 different times because through the KCBS I met all these amazing people all over the country. Now I can say all over the world, but back then it was all over the country, and just really amazing, wonderful people. A lot of them. We had similar interests. I think everybody had this similar interest in. I always say barbecue is the friendliest food. It's the most gregarious cuisine. I think Karen and Gary, when they started the KCBS, they clearly understood the camaraderie and the friendship and the fellowship that goes along with cooking barbecue. So the KCBS, it's impacted my career in ways that I would have never, ever imagined in my entire life. I could probably get emotional about it, but that's my nature. It's taken me all over the world. It's put me in a position to write a cookbook. It put me on a television show for 6 years. That wouldn't have happened if it hadn't been for the KCBS. I have friends all over the world through the KCBS. It's been a journey that I never could have ever imagined. So.
Well, I think you are spot on, and it's so much about the friendships, and I am grateful for the barbecue trail because it brought us together as friends.
I know, right? So. I was just sitting there thinking, I mean, we could do way too much time talking about what the KCBS means and what it does for not only myself or you, but for thousands and thousands of others. I mean, it's really a special organization.
Absolutely. Well, and you are known as the professor for both your focus and technique. You're also really known for helping others and being a true sportsman and ambassador for the sport, for barbecue in general. And you were recognized with the KCBS Gary Wells Sportsmanship Award several years ago. You've been inducted into the Barbecue Hall of Fame. Tell us what that idea of sportsmanship and helping and teaching others really means to you.
Well, when I first started competing, I had one of my first contests. I mean, my mom one time, I had a really good contest one weekend, and then the next weekend I didn't get one call and never got out of my seat. My mom said, she called me up. She said, "Tuffy, I hear you didn't do so good this weekend." And I said, "No, ma'am." And she said, "Well, last weekend it was your turn, and this weekend is somebody else's." And that really stuck with me. But one of the things that I did probably from my very first contest was went around and wish everybody luck. But I'll tell you a really funny story about receiving that award. And it was actually, I've got a virtual backdrop up right now, but I am in my office of my catering company. And it was so funny. I've had so much good fortune on the circuit, and my dad and I together. And some of those good fortunes come with a grand announcement and a crowd of people. And one day, a package got delivered to the office at a Sharper Pallet, and it was for me. And I was in my desk by myself, and I opened it up, and it was the Gary Wells Good Sportsmanship Award, and there was no fanfare. There was nobody there to witness. It was just this private moment for me. And what was so tremendous to me is it was probably like the most touching thing that's ever been awarded to me. And it was kind of nice that it was like this private moment, and it was just me and myself in that award. So I was really touched to even be considered for it, let alone to receive it. It was, my grandfather used to always say, great things can happen when you're not worried about who takes credit for it. And I don't know, that was pretty cool. Anyways.
That is pretty cool. That is pretty cool. Well, thank you for sharing that. So as part of our giant virtual experience this year, we are really helping inspire the backyard grilling and smoking enthusiasts to get out there and get grilling. It can sometimes seem intimidating to some people, and yet to pitmasters like yourself who do it all the time, it's not intimidating at all. So give us a couple of different things, maybe some tips about how you like to do different pork options in your backyard when you're just at home grilling or smoking for your family.
Well, it's so funny about barbecue because it was such a surprise to me in so many ways, because when I got into barbecue and I got my first pit, I actually got some pork butts made a rub and built a fire with hickory and ruined this big old load of meat. And it was kind of surprising. Nobody's ever afraid to pronounce the word barbecue. You put foie gras or something like that on a menu, and people are like, I'm not quite sure how to say this, but barbecue never has that. And it's nobody's intimidated by barbecue. It's like I said earlier, it's like the friendliest food. It's a food that's typically family reunions and picnics and large gatherings of people taking this modest food. But I say to the backyard, but I love to teach. I was just down doing an event, a KCBS event in Jacksonville, Florida. And part of what I did that morning, there was about 40 some backyard teams, a lot of new ones. And so I went around to all the teams, and the only way I felt like it could be fair was to invite every team. And so for about 30 minutes, I just did a talk through making everybody answering any questions they might have. I did a quick demonstration on showing them how to build a box and just, help. But I didn't know how to do that when I first started. And like I said, I made bad barbecue to start, but I would say there's some guiding lights for me when it comes to making good barbecue. I think these focal points for me have helped me have some of the good days that I've had in competition barbecue or in my backyard. Cause because that's really important too. And that's, I think the best foods in the world are the ones that are cooked to the perfect doneness. And I don't care if it's ice cream or Caesar salad or a rack of ribs. The best foods are always going to be the ones that are cooked perfectly or have the best texture, mouthfeel. And this just, what I like, also, I'm going to talk out of the other side of my mouth. Backyarders, if you're listening, these things are repeatable. We can do them over and over again. So it's not like every cook's going to be different. If we take a meat that's similar in size and cook it at the same temperature, the time that it's going to take to get done this is going to be pretty close. And so practicing, we can repeat these things. But we want to focus on doneness. We want, I like to treat smoke like salt and pepper. I think a lot of us can relate to getting that smoker, and we get the fire going and we put the chunks of wood on and the smoke's just coming out of it. And we're like, yeah, we're smoking. I read a book John Willingham wrote, and John Willingham says in his book, and it really inspired me, is we're cooking, we're not smoking. He went on further to say that smoke is dirt, and he really talks about running a clean fire. But I say backyarders, let the meat be the star. Don't over smoke your meat, while realizing that smoke is a flavor that people expect when they're going to think about eating barbecue. I could get windy on this, Emily, so I'm not going to go too far, but I am doing, I think on May 25th, I'm going to do a quick barbecue 101. That's going to be, you got to go to Barbecue with Tyson to watch it. But I'm going to talk about some of the real fundamentals. I'm going to focus on ribs, and it's going to be meat selection. It's going to be how much rub to put on there, when to rub it, what temperature to cook it at, how long to cook it. We'll teach the Texas crutch, which is, for anybody that doesn't know, it's basically just taking a piece of meat and wrapping it in butcher paper or aluminum foil to stop the smoking process, but allow us to continue to cook the meat. Letting meats rest is important. But I would say this, backyarders, if you really want to learn, I'd say take a judging class at KCBS and go judge a class and taste some of these foods, and then go around and talk to the cook teams after the contest is over. And they'll be so helpful in giving information. There's so many resources now, on whether it's books or through the internet, that are just really great places to learn. But I think in this day and age, when everything's so immediate, I mean, no one's waiting for a letter in the mail anymore. It's about a text or a tweet or email or whatever. It sure is for me, it's really, well, for me and a lot of other people, it's really great therapy to take a rack of ribs or a pork shoulder and season it and put it on our cooker. And I don't care if it's charcoal, gas, wood, pellets, whatever you want, electric, I don't care. And make something that's really delicious and that you can share with your family and your friends. I don't know if that helped or not. That's a little long.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. What is your favorite pork dish to cook at home?
Oh my gosh. Probably a pork chop. I am a sucker for a pork chop. A lot of times we don't have time to maybe cook a rack of ribs or a pork shoulder, but I always have time for a pork chop. And you know this as well as I do, Emily. Probably one of the best things that ever happened to the pork industry is when the USDA said we don't have to cook our pork to 165 degrees. We can cook it to 140 degrees. Now, I would argue that I might even cook 145 degrees. I might cook it a little less than that. But pork tenderloin, pork loin, great cuts. Don't take too long to cook, but I'm going to underscore it. Do not overcook it. Cook it to about 140 degrees. Take it off of the grill or the smoker or the skillet and let it rest. And as it rests, it's going to do what's called carryover cooking, and it's going to continue to climb in temperature. But if you do not overcook your pork tenderloin or your pork loin, you'll have a much better product. I would also say, when selecting that cut of meat, and both tenderloin and loin are both relatively lean cuts, but look for some meat that's got some really great color, some really great marbling. You can see on the screen, I've got Chairman's Reserve there. I'm a big fan of that product. But whatever you cook, just go to the case and find the most marbled meat that you can find, and don't overcook it if it's pork loin or pork tenderloin.
That's right. Fattest flavor.
Fattest flavor, yes, ma'am.
What about chicken? What are some of your favorite chicken things to do on the grill or the smoker at home?
It's so funny with everything that's been going on in my world these days. Um, I started doing what I call Sunday supper at the restaurant, and I'm taking these about 3.5 pound whole chickens, and I'm brining them for about 3 hours, and then I'm air chilling them overnight, and then I'm just seasoning them really simple with some kosher salt, some fresh cracked black pepper, and some granulated garlic. And then I'm making a little brown butter. And after they've been on there for about 30, 45 minutes, starting to get a little crispy, I hit them with this brown butter and I spritz them with a little apple juice. And this has been such great smoke therapy for me. And my customers seem to really like it. And I think this whole Sunday supper, whole chicken thing is just I think we get so busy in life that sometimes we need to slow down and cook a little bit more, or at least have one family meal, between soccer and baseball and gymnastics and swimming and work and all these things, just to pause every now and then and light a fire and to cook. But these Sunday suppers have been really great. I think another thing that I think just about everybody's a sucker for are chicken wings. And I've been doing chicken wings with a celery seed white sauce. Actually, you can go to my website and get the recipe for that. And that's really good. You've been with me competition barbecue, so you've had probably all of the proteins that I cook. Usually my favorite one that I want to eat is the chicken. So I don't know. Chicken's great. It's actually, for backyarders, what a perfect place to start, because it's not expensive, doesn't take long to cook. So that's probably a good place to practice.
Fantastic. Yes. You know what? I hate to admit this, but chicken is my favorite competition dish as well. Even with my pork background, I just love it.
Yeah.
It's so good. All right, Tuffy, my last question for you. So obviously the giant barbecue battle is very special to all of us, shutting down Pennsylvania Avenue and having a barbecue contest. What are some of your favorite memories from that?
That contest is to be able to close down Pennsylvania Avenue, put fences up. Alan and his team, what they do is tremendous. Doug Halo, I miss him so much. He kind of took care of the competition part. Alan took care of the whole festival, but it is and you've been there too. It's like, wow, smell the smoke on Pennsylvania Avenue and look at the nation's capital. And it's really tremendous. Some interesting stories about that contest for me is it was winning that contest that put me in the jack. And then they used to have an MBN portion of that contest, and that put me in Memphis MA. And so it's interesting because Barbecue Pitmasters was part of the basic cable package for that area. So there's a lot of patrons that come in that aren't cooking at all, and they're just so excited to get over there and see the smoke or smell the smoke, meet the cooks. But it's whoever wins this contest gets an automatic to the jack. It's in the nation's capital. If you live in the vicinity, whenever we go back to having this event live again, it's an incredible event. We do demonstrations there. They'll have a tent set up. I mean, Alan and their crew just do. There's so much to this event, and there's so many things to do for the family, and the barbecue competition is just one part of that whole event. But if you want to learn the demonstrations that we do, it's a lot of fun, and just I mean, what do you think? It's pretty amazing to have that contest in nation's capital on Pennsylvania Avenue.
Absolutely. I can't wait till 2022 to see that contest come back to life. And, one of my favorite memories of that is just how, to your point, a lot of people coming through, a lot of consumers and folks certainly who knew you from Barbecue Pitmasters. And I'll never forget, you're in the midst of getting a turn-in ready, but some little kid came up and said he wanted to meet you, and you took the time to do that. And I just think, that goes back to the question I asked earlier about sportsmanship and really helping grow interest in barbecue and it being the friendliest food and friendliest sport. So Tuffy, you are a great ambassador for the sport. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. And I'm going to leave everybody with my favorite Tuffyism. The harder I work, the luckier I get.
You're the best.
You're the best. Thanks, Tuffy.
Thank you, Emily.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.